Hey, Will here with EventStable.com, and thank you for joining us in part 2 of our sit-down with Tom Friedman from Got You Covered Rentals in San Luis Obispo. So just in case you missed part 1, what we're doing here is we sat down with Tom. Tom is an industry vet, been doing party rentals his entire life, and Tom was able to spend some time with us and share his insights on how to get started pricing out items in your rental inventory. In part 1, we talked about folding chairs and folding tables. We talked about some tabletop accessories, glassware and chinaware, things like that. In part 2 here, Tom gets into more complicated products like dance floors, staging, tents, and tablecloths. So he's got a lot of good information to share. I don't think you want to listen to me yap anymore about it, so let's get to it and listen to what Tom has to say. Enjoy. All right, tablecloths, linens.
Tablecloths. Tablecloths, worse than glassware because your crew is most likely going to count for, did they receive it? They're not going to be able to check for stains, tears, and other issues that may go along with that. So you have to account for that with your price. So it's even higher than glassware usually. So if you're buying a linen, if you're renting a linen for $20, you probably bought it for $15. And laundry is going to take $5 of it, but you may, depending on your system, you may only get 3 rentals or 4 rentals out of it before
you have to
exit out. You may get longer depending on your laundry service, but it's just something else. And linens are much more susceptible to fads. This color was in this year, this color's out next year.
Fads, got it.
So your glassware, your china, your silverware, your chairs, your tables are more likely you're gonna have a 10, 15 year lifespan on that. A linen may be hot today and not tomorrow.
Good point. Wow, that's a good, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so a tablecloth, so what I'm hearing is anywhere from 100% return to 150, just based on
it just depends on, especially if someone wants a specific linen that you didn't stock and you don't see a market for it. Sometimes you'll source it for them, knowing that it may not go out, but you have to at least be able to recoup that return on investment.
Very cool. Good stuff. All right.
Almost.
Catering equipment?
Catering equipment is very difficult to price. Caterers, for the most part, if you're too high a price, they'll source it themselves because they'll be able to use it more often and justify the expense for them. However, catering equipment, for the most part, you need a big truck, you need a lift gate, and it normally takes 2 guys. If they're just getting a convection oven, you're going to send 2 guys out for a convection oven.
So we're not necessarily talking about just chafing dishes with catering.
I look at the bigger stuff.
We're talking about warming ovens.
Chafing dishes are easy. They're relatively inexpensive now, and you can almost rent those at a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay. The biggest dilemma we have with chafing dishes is getting back my components to my chafing dishes.
Oh yeah.
I tend to get things that get exchanged, and I get the quality that's been in their facility for 10 years beat up, and so it's trying to maintain and keep it fresh with what I've provided.
And then, so what about the like the big stuff? Like
so the big stuff, you have a lot more labor. So for example, a convection oven, you have to provide propane for. So then the question becomes, do you allocate and price that separately? Is it built into the price structure? We have to deliver ours because most people show up with a pickup truck and there's no way you're going to get it onto the pickup truck and off the pickup truck at the job site.
Right.
So we require a truck with a lift gate. We require 2 guys to go out with it just because the bulkiness of it. If you're doing a larger job, then it's fine. But it's just something you have to be prepared for, the one-off job of someone renting just that piece of equipment.
So that's not, you're saying probably not a hard and fast rule on how to price those because of just
it's hard. However, a convection oven should last you 10, 15 years.
Okay.
It's not a fad, it's a piece of equipment that will always be a need for it.
Gotcha. Okay. So what's the best piece of advice you give somebody on pricing like a big warming cabinet?
So if you're going to get a warming cabinet, first off, I would say make sure that you have a demand for it. It's not a one-off that you just bought a piece of equipment that's going to you rented it one time, it's now going to sit in your warehouse.
Yeah.
Because that did good. You made it, maybe a customer happy, which is then you have to justify, is that customer worth that one-off purchase? And then other than that, buy quality product, because the quality equipment when it comes to that will return its investment over the life of it.
Yeah, 'cause it has little to do with like the aesthetics, right? It's just got
Correct.
to be well built.
Correct. And then the other issue when you get to warming cabinets is people tend to overload the circuits. So just because, so in our disclaimer, we say every warming cabinet must be on its own circuit. Well, they tend to interpret that as meaning its own individual plug.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not pop the circuit, but it will overheat the internal wires and make them brittle, which when we go to test it, it may be fine. On the transport to the next job site, because the wires are now brittle, they'll fall apart internally, and we plug them in, they won't work.
Okay, so get warming cabinets and ovens when you are ready.
Yes.
I forgot to throw that one. All right, here we go. Let's see, patio heaters.
Ooh, patio heaters. I just had a huge discussion with our office regarding this. Do we spend the money on buying a top of the line, top quality patio heater,
And what do those cost?
$300 to $400?
Okay.
Or do you buy a less expensive Lowe's, Home Depot, or work with a local supplier to get something that's $150?
Sure.
And what we determined was the life cycle of a heater, regardless of where you buy it, is about 2 years before you're going to have an issue with the heater.
Maintenance and all
Maintenance,
that.
needing new thermocouplers, needing new regulators, the igniter going bad. The difference being with the more expensive ones, they sell all the replacement parts. They've been in business for years. You can call them up, they'll ship them to you.
Right.
The problem then becomes, okay, I've got a heater. It's 2 years old. I bought parts. I spent $50 to go get new parts to make it work brand new again. But it looks like a 2-year-old heater.
Yeah.
Versus spending now. So if you bought a heater for $400 and you just put $50 into it, you're $450 into it. You got 4 years out of it at $450. You bought them at $150. You're $300 into a 4-year period. Your heater looks brand new. You can go to 6 years buying new heaters every 2 years and have new heaters every 2 years that work and function flawlessly.
Gotcha. Okay. And so pricing guidance, like how do you rent?
Pricing guide, they are a quick return on investment. We do provide propane when we do it though, so that is an additional expense when we do.
And seasonal,
Provide.
right? I mean, you're not gonna, often you send them out in the summertime.
You do get people that depends on your market, of course.
Yeah.
Here we are known for hot days and cold nights.
Right.
So when that temperature fluctuates from a 95-degree day and you have a 50-degree night, the question is how late is that party going? And do they want their guests to leave because they got cold?
Do they want the guests
In
to
the
leave?
sense
Yeah.
of you just spent $50, $60, $70,000 on your wedding,
Mhm.
and they don't want to get patio heaters that may have cost them an extra, let's say $1,000 of rental,
Mhm.
but they're guests that they want to be there for their event, and it's now 8 o'clock and they're feeling cold and they leave. They didn't get the full experience just because you wanted to save an extra $1,000.
So that's how you sell it.
Yeah.
That's part of that. Interesting.
It's just one of those dynamics of, and it's everything with an event. There's certain things that I tell people if you want your guests to leave at 8 o'clock and it's an easy way for them to leave because they're cold, then
Yeah.
by all means. However, if you truly want them to enjoy the whole evening, it's cheap insurance.
Very good point. Thank you. Almost so close. All right, dance floors.
Ooh, dance floors. Dance floors there's a lot of new trends coming out. For the most part, before you had your black and white, your white, your oak parquet, or your fake parquet.
Mhm.
They've now started releasing dance floors that have different textures to match the rustic tables, the chairs, and all this. I still think the oaks and the whites and the blacks are still going to be a solid go-to. But if you get into the newer ones, I would allocate a quicker return on investment only because that color may be a fad, just similar to a linen. Granted, the dance floor should last 10 years, 15 years. However, if you've picked a dark wood dance floor and 2 years from now the dark wood is no longer in trend,
Yeah.
you've now invested in a color that you may not return investment on. So you have to be able to allocate for a quicker return on investment so that you're protected for that.
If it's a trendy type finish.
Correct. Now,
Price
granted,
is
you
low.
booked 20 jobs for it by just saying, we're going to get this.
Right.
You could be like, okay, I'm going to price it the same way because it's hot now, and maybe you can recoup your return on investment within a year or two
Gotcha.
And if it dies off, at least you've made your money back.
So what's the general rule? Like if you just had to ballpark
A quick
dance floor?
Dance floor sections are usually 30% return on investment, I'd say.
Okay.
But you do have labor involved.
You
Labor,
gotta
and you do have
polish 'em
trucking.
up.
And you got to, kind of silverware, you got to clean them up and make them look good between every rental.
And installs too. Takes a little while.
It takes a little while.
Yeah. So close. Staging. You don't have to polish them up,
Nope.
but more intensive install.
More intensive, and the one thing that people, when it comes to staging, you do have additional costs. You do have different height stage legs, your cross bracing, your skirting, your stairs, your railing for code compliance. So even though you're renting a stage for, I'd say it's give or take a 30 or 40% return on investment, you do have a high cost of labor for the product, and you do have the things that go with it that you don't charge for. You don't charge for the different height legs. You don't charge for the cross bracing. Some people have allocated where the price includes railing if they get above a certain point, where they've tiered the pricing. It's X amount for below a certain height that doesn't require railing,
yeah.
cross bracing, X amount above. So there's different ways of doing it. It just depends on the dynamic of how you want to set that up.
But 30-40% is a good jumping off point.
It's a good jumping off point. So if a stage panel is going to cost you, less expensive stage panels right now, I think are around $150, and I'm running for 30, 35.
Gotcha. Awesome.
So
All right. Last, but certainly not least.
tenting. Tenting, so there are fads within tenting. There are also insurance, your workman's comp, your unemployment, all of that ties heavily. Our tenting is over 50% of our business. So tenting is our highest insurance percentage that we pay for. So when you're pricing tenting, you can buy a tent, let's just say a 20 by 20, for example, $1,500. It's about the go-to price. We rent that for about $350. We have delivery on top of it, but then you get into sidewalls. They want white, clear, French, which is additional cost. Of course, you charge for that.
Sure.
You have to have trucks that are capable of delivering the longer poles usually. You have to have crew that's experienced to install it. A lot of places now are letting me stake tents, so now I deal with concrete weights.
It's been a lot of hot topic last couple of years.
Yeah, so we've majorly invested into cements. I can't say we've done away with water barrels because there's certain sites that we logistically can't get cement into. But I'd say we're down to maybe 5% of my installs now have water ballast.
Okay.
And then tents though are very much market price driven. So a lot of people believe they can buy a tent and run out of the garage and install it. And then when they get into the logistics of it, they realize there's way more involved than just
It's a big deal.
me, my pickup truck on a weekend and installing.
I mean, for Central Coast Tent and Party, when we did tents, there's that old adage, right? When you get the tent, you get the party.
Yeah.
But then you get the part, like you get everything, and
Correct.
your costs go way up, and
Well, there's also
the labor and everything.
There's the
else.
caveat of if a person wants a tented wedding and you don't offer the tent, you most likely will not get the tables, chairs, dishes, linens that go inside the tent.
Right.
So by having the tent, a lot of times that's your way into the rest of the rental.
So that's can't think of an analogy, but that's
You have to almost
like the
have
keystone
that.
of the,
unless I know there's a couple people in a couple markets where they have actually partnered with a tent company and a rental company, and the two pretty much refer each other exclusively.
Okay.
But that's not the norm.
Right. So as a let's just say standard, just like so we can give people a jumping off point, just like your standard
20 by 20,
20 by 20.
$1,500 investment. You're renting it for 300-ish.
Okay.
So you're 30%, 20%.
30% return.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But you do have a lot of labor involved, and you do have your insurance is going to be. Oh, and permitting.
Permits. Tent
Permits, fire extinguishers, lighted exit signs. Some customers don't want to pay for that, and in my town, my permit for 20 by 20s is more expensive than my 20 by 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. All right, so that's good. That is good stuff. So tents, just be mindful of all the accessorials, all the
Oh yeah.
any sort of requirements, permits, insurance, everything else. Don't underprice your tents.
Yep. Underground utilities.
Oh,
sprinkler lines,
What?
power lines, something you just, it opens up a can that you just have to be aware of when you're get into that.
And that really helps explain to people like why renting a tent is so expensive, like who aren't in the business.
Yeah.
It's like there are a lot of costs associated.
A lot
with
of
that.
costs.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was awesome. That was great. Tom has, as you can tell, a wealth of knowledge. So I'm hoping that he will continue to want to do these from time to time with us. And there's a link down below in the comments to gycrentals.com, San Luis Obispo Party Rentals. And Tom, thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. All right, so that was it. How to price your rental items with Tom Friedman at Got You Covered Rentals. So I hope you guys found that valuable. If you did, give me the thumbs up in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next video. All right, thanks a lot. Tents. This is gonna be a fun one, right? I should have saved tents for the end.
You should have said tents. Let's go back to tents.
Do this.
Make
and
that's on the table again.
we forgot stacking chairs, so we're gonna talk about it right now. Okay.